Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Diaspora Network, the program where we celebrate Nigerians making remarkable strides around the world. I'm Teniola Oyetayo. On the program today, we meet Dr. Omowunmi Braithwaite, a consultant obstetrician and gynecologist with more than 30 years of experience and one of the leading voices in water birth deliveries in the United Arab Emirates. But first, here's a look at what's making headlines across the global Nigerian community.
The Prince and Princess of Wales, Prince William and Kate Middleton, have spotlighted Nigerian talent on the global stage by commissioning acclaimed photographer Christiana Ebenezer for a striking tiara portrait. Ebenezer's collaboration with the royal family began in January 2025 when she photographed Sophia, Duchess of Edinburgh, for her 60th birthday portraits. Born in Nigeria, she spent her early years in Lagos before relocating to London, where she drew creative inspiration from film, music videos, and family portraiture. Her work focuses on capturing subjects in their truest essence while promoting visibility for people of color. Her growing influence has earned her recognition as a Forbes 30 Under 30 Arts and Culture leader and a British Fashion Council New Wave creative. In 2024, 2 of her portraits were unveiled at the National Portrait Gallery in London, further cementing her place in the global art scene. Nigerian-born community leader Olori Olufunke Onafowora has been recognized as one of the Women of Worth 2026 during International Women's Day celebrations in Houston, Texas. She is among 30 outstanding women of the year honored for excellence, leadership, and impact across various sectors. The award highlights her significant contributions to professional practice and community development within the Nigerian diaspora. A registered nurse and licensed financial practitioner, Onafowora is widely respected for her dedication to healthcare and financial empowerment. She also serves as president and founder of a Nigerian women's organization spanning New Jersey, New York, and Philadelphia. For over a decade, she has championed unity, empowerment, and cultural identity among Nigerian women in the diaspora, building a strong platform for collaboration, support, and visibility. 14-year-old student Oluwadamilola Adeolu has clinched first place in the junior category of the African Spelling Bee held in Harare, Zimbabwe. A student of St. Lawrence Metropolitan College in Ado-Ekiti, Adeolu outperformed contestants from more than 30 African countries to secure the top spot at the continental competition. According to the Nigeria Spelling Bee organizers, the contest featured several challenging stages, including a speed round where participants spelled 20 words in 1 minute alongside elimination rounds. Her latest victory crowns an impressive track record. Adeolu previously finished second at the 2023 MTN Spelling Bee, second at the 2024 Ekiti State Spelling Bee, fifth at the 2025 African Spelling Bee, and second at the 2025 Nigeria Spelling Bee. Her journey to the title began with a first-place finish at the Ekiti State level, followed by a strong second-place performance at the national finals in Port Harcourt.
This week on our special report, we highlight Nigerian women in the diaspora who are on the front line of the fight for safer pregnancies and births for Black women.
Across the world, many more Black women than white women are still likely to suffer complications or even die during pregnancy and childbirth. From London to Dubai and the United States, many say they are not listened to nor believed and too often sent home when something is clearly wrong. Changing that narrative takes more than medical skills. It requires cultural understanding, empathy, and people inside the system who are willing to challenge it.
Definitely something that I'm very proud of. What was lacking?
In London, British Nigerian advocate Sandra Igwe is doing just that. After her own traumatic birth experience, she set up the motherhood group to create safe spaces for Black mothers and to push more respectful, culturally aware care. Another British-Nigerian campaigner, Tinuke Awe, co-founded 5X More, a group demanding answers to why black women in the UK are several times more likely to die in pregnancy and childbirth. Their petitions and surveys have forced politicians and health leaders to confront a crisis many once ignored. Across the Atlantic, US-based Nigerian researcher Dr. Ndidiamaka Amuta leads the Center for Black Maternal Health and Reproductive Justice, working with hospitals and lawmakers to redesign maternity care and pass new protections for black mothers. And on the front line of clinical care, Nigerian-American obstetrician and gynecologist Dr. Ruth Arumala also uses her practice and podcast to educate women globally, breaking down myths and helping black women recognize danger signs early enough.
Now to our guest, Dr. Omowunmi Braithwaite, a consultant obstetrician and gynecologist with over 3 decades of experience. She has worked in some of the busiest hospitals in London and Dubai. Dr. Omowunmi Braithwaite was born in the United Kingdom into the distinguished family of the late elder statesman and legal icon, Dr. Tunji Braithwaite, and renowned medical practitioner, Grace Braithwaite. The second of 5 children, she grew up in a home filled with love, support, and strong values, an environment that nurtured her character and fueled her passion for service. With over 30 years of experience in the medical field, Dr. Braithwaite is widely respected for her extensive expertise and her warm, patient-centered approach to obstetrics and gynecology. She has dedicated her career to advancing women's health and providing holistic, compassionate care.
I had a very loving and very beautiful childhood. My dad was very much into family, and he was the best father that anybody would ever want. And my mum was the best supporting person in his life. So we had a very privileged, I would say, upbringing, both spiritually, socially, in every way possible. So we traveled a lot every year on holidays to various parts of the world. At the age of 12, I decided by myself, not my parents, that I wanted to go back to the UK and to be in boarding school. I was actually envious of the fact that my brother was being sent there, and I felt I needed to go as well. So 1971, I think, or 72, I was 12, 13. I went back to the UK and I was in school at Charters Towers, which doesn't exist anymore, in East Sussex, Bexley-on-Sea. We used to call it God's waiting room because it was just old people there. So I spent 6 years. I did my GCSE, O-levels and A-levels there. And after which I came back to Nigeria and I went to University of Ibadan, where I studied physiology. After which I then went to University of Lagos, where I did my medical degree and MBBS. Soon after that, I got married, had 2 children, and then I decided to go back to the UK to specialize. I was actually married to a northerner, so it was a little bit of a, it shook my parents a little bit, but so I decided to go back to the UK in 1991, 1992, and obviously I think it's still happening there now. If you didn't train in the UK, you had to do a PLAB exam, and there was a 6-month waiting list actually to do the exams. So I started working. I couldn't work as a doctor, obviously. So I was working as a phlebotomist. These are people who take blood from patients in the clinic, and an ECG technician to keep body and soul together. So I did that for 6 months before I did the PLAB exam, and thank God I passed on the first attempt. So the next major hurdle was trying to get a job. And as we didn't really have referees and whatnot. I was coming from Nigeria. I wanted to be a physician, an internist, as they call them. That was where my leaning was, but I just couldn't get a job in a training program for that, and time was going, so I decided, you know what, I'll just do whatever for 6 months, get some referees under the belt, and then maybe I can then start reapplying. So I applied for Obs and Gynae, and it was so easy. It was almost like the first job I applied for, and that was in Basildon in East Sussex, where I spent a year there. And as they say, the rest is history. After I did 6 months, I did a year, and I decided actually I quite like this line of specialization. The interesting thing is when I transitioned to the United Arab Emirates, and that was 15 years ago. At that stage, I was already a consultant for about 8 years. I was kind of well and truly settled. But you know, you don't know when the universe has plans for you. I didn't even know where the UAE was if you gave me the map of the world. But this recruitment lady got my number, how I don't know, and decided to start pestering me about coming to the UAE. I said, no, I'm happy here. I've reached the end of my career. I'm just buying time now till I retire. But she kept on and on and on and on. Just say, just try. I said, I don't know anybody in the UAE. She said, don't worry. My sister's there. She was Pakistani. She'll take you around. She'll let you see the UAE. So eventually I caved in and I came. And again, another chapter, major chapter in my life. And I've been here for 15 years. I've worked in, HMS will be my third hospital here. I was at the American hospital for about 9 years. There weren't so many hospitals in the UAE then. So that was a good way to come into the UAE. After which I spent 3 years at King's College Hospital. And now I've been in HMS Mirdif for 3 years.
Dr. Braithwaite shares the key experiences and defining moments that helped her discover her path and shape her professional niche.
There's so many things, especially working as an obstetrician gynecologist, and I always feel that being pregnant and giving birth is very spiritual. And there's so many instances. But one that comes to mind was when this Somali lady, the Somalians are very stubborn, and they were being brought to the UK. I think they had the war, so a lot of them came as refugees. And I remember this lady, she had had 3 cesarean sections and decided that the 4th baby was going to be normal. Obviously, it was high alert. Memos were being sent everywhere. You know, on the NHS, you don't really have ownership of the patients. But if you're on call, you now take care. So I just happened to be on call for this. I was on call the day this woman came in labor. And they had stopped coming to hospital. They don't allow anybody to come to them. And so when she came in labor, I was called. I was a consultant already. So as we've never experienced such a thing, that somebody would have a normal delivery or attempt a normal delivery after 3 cesarean, I had to come in as the consultant on duty. So I saw them and I said, listen, I know they've said you've been warned about the risks and everything. Do you want to carry on? They said yes. This woman delivered normally with no hiccups, no problems. But you see, when things happen, you don't know where it's going to take you. So I was able to experience that and think, you know, this is actually quite possible. And subsequently, I must have done about 6 successful vaginal births after 3 cesarean, many with 2s. So I have carved a niche for myself in the world of obstetrics, where I try to achieve normal births. I'm trying to normalize births. So quite a number of my patients are patients who've had 1 cesarean, 2 cesarean, 3 cesarean, or breech presentation. So when you were talking about trying to have an identity and be strong there. This is where my strength lies. And this is why people will come even from outside of the UAE to seek me out, to try to achieve their dreams, and I try to support them in that way. I always identify as a Nigerian. It doesn't matter that I was born in the UK and I've lived probably most of my life more in the UK than in Nigeria. But I always say to people, because sometimes they're a little bit confused, and I see it a lot with the patients, they'll tilt their head and say, they'll ask me, where are you from? I'll say Nigerian. They'll say, but I'll say, okay, yeah, I was born there, I grew up there, but I'm still Nigerian. And one of the things I always say to people is that when I'm in the UK, if I'm walking down the road, they don't say, oh, she's British. They say, oh, she's probably African or Caribbean. But I'm walking in Nigeria, nobody bats an eyelid. I merge, I'm part of that.
While returning just a moment, Dr. Braithwaite shares more about her passion for women's health. Please stay with us.
The NHS was more like a family. When you were training, you were all together, you supported each other. As a junior doctor, if you had a good team, the seniors protected the junior, and the training was all there. Here there's no, you come with your skills, you understand. The system here is similar to America, because it's all insurance, it's like this. Whereas in the UK, it didn't matter if you were a beggar on the street with not a penny, you would come into the hospital and you'd be treated. If I came to the UAE as a trainee, I don't think I would have achieved the level of expertise and experience, because the volume of work, the UAE is a smaller population. London alone is bigger. So you had volume to be hands-on, to get your skills under your belt, to really be, obviously you as an individual have to be motivated, but it was there. I think everybody who's moved from the UK and moved here, even with our white brothers and sisters, one of the major things here is that your standard of living goes up because we're not taxed. So you have a little bit more spending power, and also, this is it's bright and new and shiny. So you feel good, you have access to different cuisines, different things, so it's very accessible here. England brings, for me, it carves you, it makes you who you are. Having to walk through the rain, the snow, having to go to Tesco's and do your shopping and do your cleaning and study, and it doesn't matter. You had to do it. There was no servant, there was no driver. You'd have to run and stand in the rain for the bus, or run for the bus, or go on the underground, or the traffic was heavy. It made you that strong person.
Reflecting on her childhood and family background, Dr. Omowunmi Braithwaite expresses how her upbringing influenced the woman and doctor she is today.
Once you've got a solid foundation, you're rock solid, your foundation, yes, you will deal with all sorts of negativity, as I mentioned before, discrimination. But you're aware it's discrimination, it's sexism, but it doesn't shake you. It's not enough for you to say, you know what, I'm giving up. Rather, you tighten your belt and say, I'm going to prove to be even better. I have to honor my parents in all of this, because they were very good at making us very well grounded. And I speak Yoruba very, very well. So I was like a chameleon. I could change and, whatever I wanted to be. And of course, because I went to the UK at a young age, I can also speak Queen's English if I choose to. My dad, even though you know, he's well known in Nigeria and everything. He was a father first. And his children were, you know, I can't even find the word. He loved us unconditionally, but he was also a disciplinarian. He made sure that we had good, solid upbringing. He was a very strong Christian, and even almost single-handedly built Braithwaite Memorial Church in Ekwe, where he's been laid to rest. He's there. We all traveled as a family. Whenever there was a birthday party, Daddy was there, dancing with all the little kids, waving his hands. These are memories of what I remind my dad. And there was even one, when I was in boarding school, it was in the 70s, there was no Google Map, no nothing. And when Daddy would travel on business trips, he would make his way to Bexhill-on-Sea with a car. Might take him 6-8 hours. And I would be sitting by the window waiting for him to arrive. I always remember, and I would jump out. In those days, they used to have these big windows, bay windows. I would jump out of the window and run up to him. I remember one time I was poorly. I was even an adult. I was already, I think I was either, I can't remember whether in the UK, I was already a doctor working. And I was feeling poorly. I came to Lagos. My dad sat on the floor next to my bed all night praying for me. Every time I turned, he was there. Every time I turned, he was there. And he extends his love, not just to us, his children, but to his grandchildren. And my dad also was so kind. As you know, he was a social activist. He supported so many people. He fought for the unfortunate, and refused to join hands with the so-called big boys in Nigerian politics. I saw them every time they came to the house, but he refused to join hands with them. So he had to go through all that, even, I would say, discrimination within our own people, because they didn't want the truth. He was fighting for the man, for social justice. He would go on marches. How can he not be my hero? You know, he was just somebody that, you know, if I could have another 5 minutes with anybody in the world, it would be him.
She offers thoughtful and practical insights on how Nigeria's healthcare system can be improved and strengthened for the future.
The acute healthcare system in Nigeria is so fractured. And when my sister's telling me over the phone, this was like 2 weeks ago, that they still have to go and buy gloves and buy swabs and things in a major hospital. It's not a clinic. It makes you, it's sad, because I experienced that as a junior doctor when I qualified, that we were writing, whenever anybody came into emergency, we'd write cotton wool, gloves, suture, before you can actually attend to the patient. And they have to now start running helter-skelter to look for these things. We need to find a way. And one of the things, also when I was a medical student, we had Professor Olikoye Ransom Kuti. He was a pediatrician. And we started this thing called primary health care, where we, medical students, were taking outside of Lagos to various places, Kwakwanlanto and everything, to actually educate people. Primary health care, it was called. And we need to start doing that. It's not everybody that needs to go to a secondary or a tertiary hospital. You start treating them with knowledge, nutrition, when to come, how to live, this, that, and the other. Because even food is a form of medicine. So that the need for the population to now go and try to access higher level hospitals, the numbers will be less. And then there's no way that the government needs to throw in a lot of investment into healthcare. We need to have some sort of insurance system as well. I know it can't be always free all the time. And I know they're trying to work on that, but I think it needs to be a little bit more widespread. There needs to be widespread education. It's not everything that we need to run to hospital to. I don't take a lot of pharmaceutical medicine, and nor does my family. We manage ourselves with dietary, with even our own herbs. We need to educate people how to access the leaves, the special leaves that we have that are medicinal. We need to bring that into the forefront. We need to incorporate it with orthodox medicine. They should run side by side. And sometimes even people from the village and everything find the herbalist more approachable than going into a concrete place where they're not welcomed. But there is a lot of information. Even when you take traditional Chinese medicine, they do acupuncture and all these things. They're not using pharmaceuticals. And when you finish consulting with them, they give you a bag of leaves and roots and seeds for you to go and boil at home, similar to our own dongoyaro and everything. Even our bitter leaf and scent leaf, it's full of antioxidant. You educate people to start looking after their gut, educate them about nutrition, and most of them will not find themselves in hospitals. And that way, we can grow the hospitals, especially tertiary centers, to focus more on the very sick. When my mom was training, University of Ibadan was so well respected. Other people from other parts of Africa used to come for treatment there, but we can't talk like that anymore. And also we've got excellent doctors in Diaspora. We need to facilitate, and this again unfortunately has to come from the government because it's a lot of investment, it's a lot of spending to attract them to come back so that they can teach, they can educate and look after people. A lot of us want to come back, but where's the platform? I'm not about to start opening a clinic. It's too much work. And I still need to pay, responsible for people who I'm supporting financially. So this is where the big hiccup is. Where do I hope to retire? In Nigeria, of course. So whichever way, I'm still going to end up there.
And that wraps up another exciting edition of Diaspora Network. To catch previous episodes celebrating Nigerians in the diaspora, visit channelcv.com or our YouTube channel. Until next time, thanks for watching. I'm Tenyola Oyetayo.